Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today, we are finishing up our Micah series with part 3. The last couple of episodes, we've been talking about Micah as a speaker and her kind of her backstory. This is more of a continuation from the very, very first episodes that we ever did here, which were the Penguins of Europa, which was Micah's life pre-collapse. And then, of course, we went through her life as it pertained to her current state, that being Micah 10, and all the little ghosts that follow her. And then, of course, her bump in with Cade and where that ended up. And now we are moving on to the final part. This one is going to be all about the little traveler ball collectibles that are found throughout the Pale Heart. Each one that you pick up has a little message from Micah, and we're going to dive into all of those. So if you want to experience those for yourself and you haven't collected all of those, go check them out, go find them out. Otherwise, this is your kind of like last little spoiler thing of like, hey, there's still stuff in the Pale Heart. So yeah, myth. Where are we starting?
Yeah, so I where we last left off chronologically was kind of we reached the end of the post campaign period that was between the last campaign mission and the world's first raid happening.
All of those like 3 days until.
Yeah, yep. So now we're in a more nebulous space as far as like when it took place. Um, I think it's generally implied that this is taking place after the witness has been dealt with, post raid, post excision mission. Um, so there's a couple of things are these orbs of the traveler which are required for the Kvostov quest. Each give a cool little dialogue moment where Micah is like channeling the traveler in a way. Um, those orbs are called literally visions of the traveler, is what the Triumph calls them. And that's kind of what they are. They're a little peek into an experience that the traveler has had, and then Micah is interpreting via her connection. Uh, One thing that we're gonna touch on before the visions, though, just real quick, is a single Luzaku dialogue. And this is the dialogue that happens by default when you're first running the Luzaku Lost Sector when searching for the Lost Ghost. So I think everyone gets this one, but even if you don't immediately, it is definitely one that comes back if you keep running that Lost Sector. But it is a little dialogue between Luzaku and Micah that just reinforces some things we already knew about Micah and informs us a little more about Luzaku, which goes like this. The sky greets you. A hive guardian that isn't looking to murder us. You've got my attention. As has this one. Your aura is different, Shepherd. My aura. It reverberates like the waves of a lapping ocean, brushing on to shores of a distant garden, like the sky here. I am a guardian. My light is my truth. But you're saying I'm, what, different somehow? This one's ghost, Elok, feels it, is drawn to it. Even at great distances, he remembers you. Yulak. Yeah, I remember him. He was quiet, angry, frustrated, lashed out a lot. So he turned to Savathun then. All things can change, even ghosts. This one is glad you are here. Yulak will be glad in time. And that's the end of their little interaction.
I love running this lost sector because every time we get a new little like chunk of dialogue between two people, always between Lazaku and somebody. Uh, but yeah, this is like kind of the first. Well, I guess this is the second. You do have the one that's in the middle of the campaign when Cade
Mm-hmm.
and Crow are in there with you. Um, but yeah, so this is again kind of like reaffirming, or I guess like really bringing home. These ghosts really do flock to Micah. Like there's something different about Micah, and again, we've attributed that to the qualities of being a speaker for the traveler. And so like in this one, the hive wizard says, my ghost Ulok remembers you, like you know this one. And of course Micah responds back, yeah, I remember him. And I had to laugh. It's always the quiet dreadlord ones you got to watch out for that turn to
Yeah.
hive magic, right? And but yeah, but it's still that idea of like even after choosing a guardian, these ghosts still like are drawn to a speaker, and again, I think it's just because that connection to the light there is just so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Cade puts it best at the end of the excision mission. We're all connected in light. Everything returns. What was made in light must return to the light. And wherever that connection is the strongest, that's where these ghosts are going to flock to.
Yeah, it's an interesting description as well. So a couple of things that stick out to me. Luzaku refers to Micah as shepherd,
Yeah,
which just another kind of terminology, I suppose, for speaker, like shepherd of ghosts.
yeah,
Ghosts want to follow them, kind of thing. Um, and is implying that Micah's like, well, I'm a guardian, I have light, but you're saying I'm different. And yeah, you're saying like, yes, there's this almost magnetism between you and ghosts, and they can feel it even from great distances away. And the thing to key in on, because we're going to see this term again, is where she states it reverberates like the waves of a lapping ocean brushing onto the shores of a distant garden. So have that tucked away in your head as we're reading through stuff because you're going to hear something very similar later on. But that's the only Luzaku dialogue we're going to go over in this episode. I think our next episode is going to be dedicated to Luzaku and actually some kind of hidden Mithrax things that will be along a similar line to the visions of the traveler here. So don't worry, we're not forgetting to do more of her. Um, but we are going to get into the actual vision dialogues here. Uh, and so all of these dialogues start with some version of Micah saying, that this is an imprint of the traveler's experiences, images, and emotions, and that Micah is going to try to interpret them as best she can. So what that tells me is, this is not falsified information, but it's going to be a little abstract, and what is assumed or what is interpreted may not be 100% the reality. Um, but I think it gets pretty close, or at least close enough to make you ask some questions. So I went in I as close as I could figure to like an order. Uh, as far as like the actual subjects being talked about in these. Now they don't necessarily have a chronological order to themselves, but it just feels like there's kind of an escalation in the subject matter.
Sure.
So the very first traveler that you pick up has a conversation between Micah, Ikora, and Zavala, I in which, again, Micah, I'm going to interpret this as best I can. And then Micah goes on to say, I feel unity, love, a sense of belonging and home here inside the traveler. There is completion, a sense of duty fulfilled. There's another realm or a space. No, a state of being, union with the traveler. Light returned, and now memory as well. An eternity within the traveler, with all guardians who experienced their final deaths in afterlife. That's all I can make out. Nikora chimes in. Cade spoke of his experiences after death as peaceful, and as if he wasn't alone. Perhaps there's truth to this, that there can be something at the end. And Zavala, for guardians. I don't know if I want the traveler's heaven if the people I hope to find won't be there waiting for me. In which Micah responds, we can't be sure of anything. These visions are difficult to parse. Do not give up hope yet, Commander. And that is the first vision.
So it's an interesting kind of like two-parter here, right? Like it's like one point of view until Zavala speaks, and then it brings about this whole other idea, right? So the whole first part of it is still kind of like putting forward that idea, like everything made in the light returns to the light. So any anything that the traveler has created has been created in light, and therefore when it dies, it will go back to this. I don't know what to call it other than a heaven,
Yeah.
a peaceful place that is just all light. And we saw kind of a picture of this during the campaign when Cade starts describing like where he was at when he got yanked out by Ahamkara tentacles, and it was just this just pure light everywhere. We've seen that described before as well. The nine give the vision to Drifter of like, hey, this is what it looks like when there's nothing but light and it's so blinding, like you can't see anything. Um, so I'm curious if this is an actual physical space that exists somewhere. That again, because if we kind of like poked at it a little bit, like light is kind of like energy. Light and darkness are both like energy. Like they can't be created or destroyed. They're just kind of like transferred from one to another. And so I'm curious if like there's just like a holding cell of light or a holding cell of dark, and it's just like two cups type thing, like two little jars of whatever. And
Right.
like this is where it comes from. But then you have Zavala chimes in here. Like this is like everyone's like, oh, that's great. Like guardians that have their final death, they all go to a place of light. Like this is awesome. Then Zavala chimes in, and Zavala has a unique perspective on this because he fell in love with a human person and outlived both that human person and and their son. And of course, we've experienced that a bunch in Season of the Haunt, and of course here in the Pale Heart, where we're defending his homestead. Um, and he states, if that's heaven, well, screw that. Nobody that I love is going to be there. Like that that sounds like shit to me. And so
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, if that's your eternity, if that's your afterlife, yeah, that might actually be shit because again, nobody. I can't say that nobody you love would be there. Like obviously, Cade would probably be there. Ikora would get there eventually. Like people again, everything of the light would be there. But for Zavala, the people that he holds closest, his son and his wife, wouldn't be there. And so like he's kind of like sitting here like, what's the point then? And then of course Micah like kind of tries to give him like a reassuring like it's okay. We don't know that these are for sure. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's better, but in there you know I chorus in the background like shh don't tell him don't just keep him calm and that's good.
Well, this brings about a couple of interesting points. So, sticking to Zavala statement for a moment, this would imply that guardians, if they return to the light because they are made of the light, that would imply that they are fundamentally different than a mortal born human
Sure.
or awoken.
Sure.
Like again, we don't know. Perhaps this afterlife being spoken of is more universal than just to like to what's within the traveler. But if we're taking this at face value and it's like, yeah, all the ghosts, all the guardians, they all just turn into energy and get sucked inside the traveler
Get
and
put back in that
you know,
jar.
right. I like that tells us that they are an entirely different
Yeah.
existence from just a normal, I say normal, from another mortal
A
person.
standard human being. Put that in
Right. Yeah.
quotations, yeah.
Which is this weird like feeling of you're not even the same species as the thing you're trying to
Yeah.
defend is the vibe it
Yeah.
gives. Species isn't the right word, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. It's like our guardians, or I guess even all light bearers, right? Like, because again, if we're coming
Right.
back to it's made in light, returns to light, that means the hive have ghosts, like the
Yeah.
lucent brood are
Yeah.
made in the light. So it's like if they die, they're going to the same little jar of light. Like,
Every ghost we've crushed, every hive ghost we've
yeah,
crushed
has all gone
is
back.
yeah,
So yeah,
which is kind of
it's
wild.
that's a interesting thought there. That's like, you know, enemies in here, and then you go there and like, oh shit, I'm stuck with you for eternity.
Now, the other interesting bit I wanted to point out here is Micah says light returned and now memory as well. So that makes me question a couple of things.
Okay.
Is is that the implication? Because it's specifically it's union with the traveler, light returned, and now memory as well. Is the implication there that the process of creating the ghosts weakened the traveler to the point where it didn't have a full memory of what was going on? Like, did the traveler essentially, yeah, cripple its cognitive abilities to make the ghosts, and only with them returning is it starting to remember what it is and what it can do?
I could see that.
Uh, I mean, we know the ghosts are literally made of it,
Right.
are all little bits of it, so I could see that. Or perhaps this is in reference to like now now that the veil has finally been reintroduced to the traveler, now it has all of its past memories again, and it just didn't before.
I was thinking of even a third factor here. Thinking of the ghost as a physical being in this existence. Now it as a physical object has memories of this place and is now adding
Sure.
those memories or experiences back into the traveler to make the traveler greater now that it has more things to pull on, more experiences, more
Yeah.
interactions with different creatures and guardians and humanity and all this other all the other neat things that come about with just existing in this existence are now with the traveler.
Yeah, I honestly, we don't have a whole lot of info to go on at this point. I think all three of those are perfectly viable.
Absolutely. I do like the veil one though. I like that because again, I'm still thinking of the veil as possibly being the literal heart of the traveler, and by
Sure.
somehow that being removed at some point in time, like literally crippled it, and then the idea of like maybe that does maybe by ripping that out and that being of pure darkness, like that truly did rip all the memories with him. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's say the second vision I has a very interesting card that kind of goes or conversation that kind of also goes in that direction. So this one is between Micah and Mara, and starts with Micah saying, "This experience is chaotic, changing, mutable, matter and consciousness mingling, dreams and memories given shape and form. There, there's something churning, boiling the traveler's blood. Transformation, light and dark, uh, harmony. All that which is immaterial is material. That which could be is. Not born from a wish, but born from unconscious thought. The traveler has been changed in ways we cannot undo. Not corrupted, not wounded, but transformed. And that change is still taking shape. It's happening right now." And then Mara chimes in, "Collisions of light and dark have always birthed new, previously unimaginable possibilities. We awoken were born of such a collision during the collapse. Time and space itself were rent apart in our birth. But to happen here, to happen to the traveler, what will the aftermath of such a transformation be? What will be born of the union of light and dark? A new era rises in this shadow of uncertainty." And that's the end of that dialogue.
I'm reminded here of the idea that Clovis came up with of clarity plus subject A or object A becomes subject B. And no matter what
Hmm.
you do to subject B, even if you try to like reintroduce clarity or try to take clarity away, object B never goes back to being object A. And so I'm curious
Yeah.
here if with the introduction of darkness, now again, kind of playing with my original theory of like the veil is pure darkness and it was ripped from the traveler, like
Mm-hmm.
that caused the traveler to become a new thing of just pure light. Now with it being reintroduced, it is changing. And again, they talk about like the blood boiling and stuff. I take that as just like what's happening to the traveler right now, or like what the witness was doing
Yeah.
to the traveler. Like he's doing all those little infection, and the luster is like trying to like cap off little geysers of light and stuff, and literally boil the traveler's blood. Um, but yeah, I'm curious if that reintroduction of the dark back into it is now changing it into another thing. Again, that idea of like, yay, it could be getting its own memories back, but maybe it is also getting memories and experiences of other things, of other races, of other. I mean, the veil itself is being used to power the Cloud Arc. Is that
Right.
are all those consciousnesses, all that memory being pumped back into the traveler? Was the veil used with the scions? We know Nezarek had it. We know Nezarek took the veil out there. Like, is all the memories of the scions being pumped back into the traveler now?
Yeah. There's a lot of question marks yet around the veil, its exact connection to the traveler, like how that interaction, why that interaction is important and what it's doing. But yeah, I think as Micah has said, regardless of how or why, the traveler is changing permanently.
Yeah.
It is fine, and they say is finding this harmony between light and dark. It is becoming prismatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
I'm curious if it's a level of prismatic or if it truly is becoming the gardener, being able to wield
right.
both, being able to, grow where it needs to and prune where it needs to. Like I see it as that too.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I like this with Mara saying, a new era rises in this shadow of uncertainty. That almost feels like a expansion hook
Oh,
to
absolutely.
me for sure.
Absolutely.
Probably not immediately, but this is going to be like 5 years from now when Destiny's on its second big story arc. Uh, yeah, that's when they'll be like the Traveler's turned into a diamond and it's all prismatic-y and now does other things. I don't know, but there's just that's a thread
I want
for
to
them to pull
I want
on
to see the
later.
traveler use strand, start yanking moons and shit.
I don't know if we want to see
That's what
that. You start yanking moons around a solar system, shit
gravity's gonna
gets
get
fucked.
fucked
Yeah.
up pretty bad. I'm telling you, getting yanked around in some of these fights in the raid with the strand stuff is just
Yeah.
absolute hell. And so to see that on a cosmic level, I think you're right. That might be a bad thing.
Yeah. No, thank you. I, but yeah. So we move on to the third vision. This one being between Micah and Mithrax, in which Micah says, I see so many cities, so many people basking in my light. They study me, and in their discoveries, they come to understand the universe. I am a blueprint for them to follow, a canvas upon which the mysteries of the universe are written. These little gardeners are such careful stewards of fragility, but then they begin kneeling. They plead, beg, demand. I do not know what to do. There is confusion, helplessness, guilt, and there's nothing more. In which Mithrax chimes in, does this mean the great machine does not wish to be worshipped? I don't know if I'd interpret it that way. It may be more a lack of frame of reference. It doesn't understand reverence or worship, but that also doesn't mean it can't learn, but that it's still trying to understand us, or maybe it never will. Does that invalidate faith? I do not know. It provides a question, and I suppose it is on me to ponder the answer. For the truest answers lie within ourselves. And then that's that little conversation.
God, ah, Mithrax is so connected to the light. I love it. Um, yeah, no, I think, and I think we've talked about this a few times. The the traveler, I truly think the traveler is on another plane of existence. Not sorry, not like physically, but like mentally exist on
Sure.
another plane. Similar to the nine, I think. Like the
Yeah.
nine don't really know how to talk to us because they don't have like our problems. like I don't know that they have the problem of like hunger or like politics or you know I don't have fingers for hands or something. You know what I mean? Like
Right, yeah.
I don't know what a nine looks like, and I don't know what like the only thing we have what a traveler looks like is what's here in our physical space. We don't know if this is a evolution of a being, if it is the gardener, is this something that existed outside our universe and was truly plopped into our universe? Um, but yeah, it's going through its memories of like it shows them, I've got little gardeners. They're using my tools. They're making their own golden ages, and then all of a sudden they start worshiping me and asking me questions and stuff. And I'm like, and the traveler from its point of view is like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this. I don't like
Yeah.
this is this no don't worship me. Like we're just doing science, people. Like chill the fuck out. And it doesn't know how to do it. But if you think about it, any type of, I mean, this is I'm drawn to the thoughts of the Prime Directive with Star Trek, and that idea of like a culture that's so technologically advanced introduces themselves to a culture that isn't. That culture that isn't now looks at those people as gods. I mean,
Right.
it's shown, so, and that's the whole reason why the Prime Directive exists. Is we can't interfere with stuff. If this is a first contact type situation, like this is a whole new set of rules we got to play by here. So yeah, but I don't know that the Traveler has any type of rule set for that. It's just doing what it does, bippy bopping along and making worlds and terraforming and going, hey, this place is pretty cool, pretty green. Like here's I'll triple your lifespan, and everyone's like, oh, neat. Now we worship you, and you're a god. Like,
Yeah.
and the traveler's just like, no, science, just science. So yeah, it's
Yeah. I think that's a pretty apt comparison, honestly, because like the I think it is a case of the traveler doesn't have some version of that kind of prime
yeah,
directive, because I don't think the traveler is in like you said, it does not comprehend how our minds work,
yeah,
or how, quote unquote lower species minds work. And so it hasn't even considered the idea that something might see its power and worship it, because it doesn't even know what worship is.
right. It doesn't even have that idea of like gods and benevolence, I guess, or an upper echelon of like where do we all come from? Like it doesn't have existential crisis like that. It just sees people and go, here's Tool, here's Golden Age, have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that does bring up a question of like, why is it doing that?
Right.
Like, what is the traveler's
Prime directive.
end goal? Yeah. Like, what, we've established it has
Yep,
sentience, it has hopes, it has
for
fears.
sure. It can
Uh,
talk,
so what,
albeit in kind of
right. So like,
arbitrary ways.
so the question is, so if it's not for worship, if it's not proclaiming to be a god, then why is it doing any of this?
I mean, the only thing we have to go on is it's just been running from the witnesses people. Like we don't have
Well,
anything pre
yeah.
witness desert of the traveler. At least from my knowledge, I can't think of anything in game or any lore entry or anything that says this the traveler did this and then was buried in sand and now it was unburied from sand and the witnesses people found it. Like that truly is like the first I guess memory, I'll put that in quotations as well, of the traveler is being lifted out of the sand, doing whatever it did with the witnesses people for eons. The witnesses people kind of like forsaking it or like demanding questions, demanding answers from it, demanding purpose, and then finding the veil, and then the traveler going, ah, shit, and piecing the hell out, and then just bippy bopping moon to moon to moon to planet, 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 trying to find something. And again, I do truly think from that point on, it became a how do I find something that will fight against that? And like literally just create an army and it didn't have anything until it got to us and basically lost. And I mean that's what the collapse was the traveler losing to the witness, and then created us, the Guardians. And so now and then kind of left it up to us, the Guardians, for what 2,000 years or so.
give or
to
take.
try to
Yeah.
figure out what are we here for? Why are we being raised? Why do we have access to this thing called the light? Why can I wield a chaos reach? Why now do I get to wield the darkness? Why can I wield both now? Like this crisis of like, what am I? What is my purpose? And again, I do truly think that entire purpose up until final shape was build an army, kill the witness, stop it from doing whatever it's trying, stop it from unmaking the universe.
Yeah. Because I guess from its point of view, I if it if its goal is to just spread life through the universe, extend what's there, better what's there, and create life if there isn't anything via terraforming.
Sure.
If that is its prime goal, although the motivations we still don't know, but if that is its prime goal, then the advent of the witness is the most dire threat to that goal,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that it would then go into, you know,
Survival mode.
preservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it is interesting, but there are times where I think it was twofold. I think yes, it was looking for people to defend and stop this great, universe ending calamity, but I don't think that prevented it from also just stopping in and helping civilizations along the way.
Sure. Well, and I'm curious of it, like again, that idea of like I can't just introduce technology instantaneously unless if it's just like absolute dire straits, and that's where I think our collapse finally was that breaking point for the traveler. Like up until that point, the traveler was still able to kind of like do and move, like come to his place, like get far enough in front of the witness as far as like a retreating path to like start terraforming a place, start giving them ability, not abilities, but like advancing them scientifically to like try to show them like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you can do more, you can do better, like you are a potential candidate for the light, maybe. Um, but never really had any true intention of creating ghosts or guardians until it got to our solar system. And then again, when collapse, like by this time, the witness has kind of like plotted its path and gone, okay, I'm going to meet you in this solar system. Boom, comes to Soul, and now the witness or now the traveler is like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've got nothing left up my sleeve. Let's try this, and just shits out a bunch of ghost and light, and and there we are.
So this is a theory that's been bouncing around my head for a little while, and I don't just the sheer enormity of it tells me that it certainly is not the case. I but there's the question of like why did the travelers stay with us? And we've theorized about like because humanity had this innate ability to connect with the light that nothing else had, like it figured we were its best shot,
Rasputin shut it
yada
down.
yada. Rasputin did not do
He
not do that.
said, I love that.
There's
I
so
love that.
much misinformation around that
I
already.
love that Uldren or Crow like acknowledges that he himself as Uldren was spreading
Spread the
that
rumor.
rumor on
Yeah.
purpose just to fuck with people. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. But so regardless, there's this question of like why did it stay? And we've had some theories. Maybe the nine were holding it in place. Maybe it saw something in us that it hadn't found elsewhere. And maybe all or none of that is true.
Sure.
The other thing that I have wondered though, and again, the sheer enormity of this, if it is true, is wild. I maybe it didn't run because we're all that was left.
Oh, what if we're the only thing left in the entire galaxy, universe, whatever? Like, what if we are the final? What if
Right.
we are the final
Like,
shape?
well, we it made its final stand with us because there was
There's
no
nowhere else
other,
to go.
like we were it.
We're the line in the sand. Like this, anything past here is just we're dead. Like the whole universe dies. Like, yeah, I never even thought of it from that point of view. Like, what if the soul system truly is the last system? You know what? That would almost make sense. Well, I guess to a point, Because like we knew, the traveler never came across? Well, no, it did come across the Elixni, but it never came across the Cabal.
No.
But then the Cabal homeworld was destroyed while the traveler was here, like during D2.
Right.
So I mean, there was a little bit more there. Like there was at least the Cabal
Yeah,
homeworld.
that's true. That's true. At least the Cabal were up and running at the time.
But
And
that's not
again,
much. I mean, if we are one of two, you know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like I guess one of three, and I put three in quotation mark because the Vex is the third one. But it's like, is that really an option? I don't think it is.
I don't think that's
I don't
winning.
think that's winning. Yeah, that's not a that's not even sustaining anymore. That's just existing. That's not even existing. I don't know what that is. That's just
Yeah.
the Vex doing Vex stuff. So yeah, like I guess from that point of view, I guess like if we truly were like one of two places left to exist, and I guess that would make sense too, because what the world that the Drifter went to, it was all darkness anyway. It was already
Yeah.
statues and darkness and shit. So like, yeah, that might not be far from the truth. We may have been the true last stand of the traveler, and then when the witness showed up and was like, "Yeah, I'm still going to beat you," and the traveler's just like, "Well, shit, let's see if this works," and just
Yeah.
farts out a bunch of ghosts and says, "Do what you're going to do, figure it out," and then Savathun at the same time is like, "Ooh, neat, the veil," and like hides away. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It would be wild to think that like
There is nothing left.
everything else out there is
It's all
gone.
dead. It's all darkness.
Like,
And gone, I guess gone is the wrong word. It's all darkness. Like it's still there. It's just conquered by darkness. So it'd just be egregore everywhere, right?
yeah, we're who knows what form it would have taken necessarily.
Sure,
Could have been just statuized.
sure, sure. All finalized and whatnot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Calcified and
Yeah.
put in place. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it was, and by us defeating the witness, all of those various species out there that were calcified were suddenly freed or something. I don't
That's
know.
what I'm curious of. Because of those anomalies that like pump out of it at the end, like I'm thinking those are like last defector, or not last, like the last true, like I don't know, core believers of the cult of the witness, and like
Possibly.
whatever the one that hit Nessus and is doing screwy shit on Nessus, I don't know, like I don't know, but maybe by killing the
Yeah.
witness, like I mean, while we're in that space, all those statues are like, free us, please free us. And so like that space is not it's a physical space for us, but it's not a physical space, right? Like we're
Right.
technically inside the mind of the witness when we're killing all those statues.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I don't know if those consciousnesses flowing out of the witness, who I truly believe is just being held together by luster, like that I think
Yeah.
that's the force that's just holding all this stuff together. Um, but who's to say that those consciousnesses of those individual statues aren't now free, and now we have like the original progenitor race that could actually talk to us and
Maybe
contact us.
they don't necessarily have a physical body to use, I would
The
imagine.
statues, like
Um
if the statues were
well, sure.
unfinalized,
Still
like
just
or
stuck in the
well, sorry,
statues.
not unfinal. I guess that would be the right word, like unstatuified. Like would they be?
Oh, if the statues themselves,
Would
I get what
Yeah,
you're
if the
saying.
statues themselves
Yeah.
were the physical bodies, because the witness always talked about, well, I cut you out and I separate you, and that's even the statues
Right.
talk about that throughout the thing. And so it's like, are they actually physically separated? And then like their body is just in that, like they're finalized. Boom, they're in stone. Cool. I'll deal with you later. But the consciousness is still linked because of
Yeah.
darkness and luster. And so now that the witness has been, you know, blown up into a billion consciousnesses again, now those consciousnesses are free to try to like get back to their original bodies. I don't know if that's a thing or not. Fun theory.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But so to bring it back to this particular vision, um, at the end of the day, the traveler is not a god.
Yeah.
Just period.
Doesn't
That is
understand
a
worship.
final
Yeah.
statement. Is not a god, does not understand the very concept of worship or reverence, and is in fact quite worried by it when things start making, praying to it, essentially wanting things, because it doesn't know what to do. So
I I think of that as like people praying to it, and they're like, "I want $1 million," and he's like, "Yeah, here's a laser beam. I don't know what you want
Eh,
from me.
eh.
Here's triple your
uh,
lifespan. Have fun with that.
Invest, then
You'll
you get
get there
$1 million.
eventually." Shit. It's just granddad. That's all it is.
Yep.
Grandpa traveler. Granddad, can I have a car? Well, here's $5, son. You invest that correct, you can have a car any day you want. Neato.
Uh, but so yeah, the next vision we're going to look at is a conversation between Micah and Ghost, the player Ghost, as well as Glint. Um, and this one is talking about that moment, about the traveler staying and creating the ghosts. And it goes like this: I am frightened, but at peace. I am giving away pieces of myself, slicing them off like fingers from a hand. They're ghosts. With each one created, I lose a part of myself, a sacrifice of faith in hope against hopelessness. They're like stars in the night sky, constellations of my martyrdom, traveling until they begin to go out, one by one. And with each one's passing, part of me returns. And then Ghost chimes in. There's a theory among ghosts that if we die, we return to the light of the traveler. I don't know where that belief started. And Glint chimes in. Maybe it's just something inside of us. Reassurance that even if we fall, there's something waiting for us. A reunion with our Creator. And in that, maybe we make it whole again? I wish I could tell you for sure. These visions are difficult to interpret. Still, it's nice to think, perhaps, all the ghosts we've lost, Sagira, Sundance, Sarge, they moved on to somewhere else. Their job completed. And that's the end of that little dialogue.
So to me, I mean, obviously we're kind of restating. uh, I hesitant to call them facts, but we'll call them facts
I mean,
for now.
they kind of are at this
Yeah,
point.
that
Like,
idea of everything made in light returns to light. Um, but there is something important to state here. The traveler states in this vision that it's doing it of its own accord. That it's this
yeah,
is a martyrdom.
giving
This is
away
a
pieces of
this, he
itself.
is
Yep.
actively. I say he. There, I did it. Uh, it, they. What do you call a being of higher existence?
I don't know.
I don't know. What were they called? Stargate? I can't think of the. Daniel Jackson turns into one. Not the ancients. I can't think of what they're called. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so it did that of its own accord. It created the ghost, and it stayed and did a martyrdom and it calls it that too. It calls it a martyrdom, like what,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like a sacrifice of oneself for the greater good type deal.
Yeah.
And so
For belief.
yeah, and it touches on that too. It talks about how like it did it as a hope, as a faith, as a literally like a leap of faith. Like, hey, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do this, and I don't know what the hell's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna trust that whatever happens is gonna happen for the greater good of the universe. And so I'm drawn back to that idea of like now your thought, now your thing of the soul system truly was the final stand. Like this was it. Like if
Maybe.
if releasing the ghost didn't work, That's it. Universe unmade. Destiny loses. We die.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's game over. So I do truly think that this really is the final, or the Soul System was the final stand again, 2,000 plus years ago, and then it just took that long to just trust the process of, hey, the witness is eventually going to come back and he's going to try hunting you down and you better be ready. And then the last like 10 years or so has just been preparing us, the Guardians, to fight this thing, to to truly end the ender of all things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hard to say. Again, it seems wild that like nothing else is out there, but it would explain some
I
things.
mean, if we do become the navigators of the dreadnought, we'll find out if something's out there.
Heck yes. I hope that is what
I
happens.
think it's a thing, myth.
I think so too. But so yeah, just this like this was a conscious decision. This was a last ditch effort, and just reaffirming that as ghosts die, as they blink out, they are restoring those little pieces back to the traveler. Uh, Now the next one, this one is very interesting. Uh, this is one between Micah and Mara, and I think is the most ancient memory slash lore telling we have in the game, period.
Oh my god, it's like beginning of the it like truly in the beginning level
Yeah.
lore. Okay.
So, this one, Micah starts by saying, "This impression is jumbled, faded, ancient. I see stars, a haze of cosmic carnelian and jade whirling into infinity. Fear, hope, then an abrupt severance. Something lost or someone? It isn't clear. Dust clings to the air like motes of starlight, glittering. A new distinction between what is and what was. But a tether remains, indivisible. Light casting a shadow, and shadow defining the shape of light. And then, nah, nothing. It's gone." And Mara comes in and says, "Those colors, I feel like I've seen them somewhere before, in a half remembered dream. This may be an ancient memory of the traveler, something from the dawn of time. It may be so old as to have no significance, and yet I can't help but wonder." And that's the end of that conversation.
So this really is interesting. The fact that it has a memory of the universe being created means it is not
Yes.
of this universe.
And not only does it have a memory of the universe being created, but it seems that at that moment, at the moment of it observing this creation, is when I'm assuming this severance, this loss
Yes.
of something, is the loss of the
That's
veil.
exactly what I'm thinking. And the fact that it still feels it, it's still tethered to it, like it's still drawn to it. I am thinking that however the creation of this universe came about is part of the reason why the veil and the traveler are no longer whole.
Yes, I would
But what does
agree.
that mean? Like that's the crazy part in all this. Like again, by being able to observe something, that means you are not of it. So being able to observe the universe being created would mean that the traveler is not of this universe and therefore is part of a higher existence, a higher universe, a different plane of existence. I don't know. Truly is outside the garden game. I'm going to throw that in there just because I can. Uh,
Yeah. I think that looking to unveiling is maybe the most obvious answer.
I'm starting to think
I don't know if
unveiling
it's
is more true than we're thinking it is.
I'm kind of going down that path
I
as
was very
well.
much I was very much foot in the witness's face, hand areas. Yeah, that the unveiling was complete a farce, just a misinterpretation of events shown to it or its progenitor race by either the traveler or the veil or whatever, and it writing those things down. I'm starting to lean more and more in the category of that book might actually be have more truths in it than falsities.
Very similar to Truth to Power
Yes.
or Savathun's Two Truths, Two Lies.
I mean
Like,
the greatest place to hide a lie is in the truth. And cuz then you don't like you don't even know what to think of that.
right, like why lie when the
When
truth is so
that's
unbelievable?
yes.
So it does offer some. So if we're going to take unveiling at face value or mostly face value, the general gist of unveiling was two eldritch beings that lived above our reality or outside of our reality and literally created universes together. I had an argument,
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially. Something went down where they disagreed and fought each other, and it that may be this separation. Like the if we assume Traveler equals Gardener and Veil equals Winnower, they may have once been part of a single eldritch unit that
Cthulhu.
was required to create universes, and then that one unit was split two parts of a whole, and now they're drifting in this universe they made. There's now a distinction between what is and what was, and they're just seeing how this one plays out, I
I mean
guess.
that was the whole idea of the garden game, right? Was like
Right.
introduce paracausality into this garden and be like, okay, now let's observe. And like we're still just in the observation phase. This is the longest observation phase in the history of observation. But when you have literal eternity, eons are drops in the bucket type thing. Like those are seconds
Right.
of time. Um, I do just like that idea of like a Cthulhu like squid facey thingy.
Well,
I mean, the veil does have like tentacle things on it. Like I don't
sure.
know.
I mean, Eldritch does not equal
That's
Cthulhu.
true, but that's always reminding Cthulhu, Yogg Saron, all that level of like
Sure.
H is it H.K. Lovecraft? Is that what it is?
HP
H.P.
Lovecraft.
Lovecraft. So yeah, I was close.
Uh, yeah, and I mean, I guess I'm using Eldritch in the meaning of not like sinister,
Sure.
but in this like so far beyond our understanding
Yes.
as to not
Uncomprehendable.
be able to
Yep.
yes, that is the word I'm
Yep.
looking for.
Like if you were to be able to comprehend it, your brain would explode inside your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that. And again, going off of that idea, like there is no idea of worship there. Like if you were to understand it or do anything, like the concept doesn't exist. And so I think that would hold true again in the eyes of the traveler because it doesn't understand that.
Right.
But I
I
don't know what the fuck that means then. Like it doesn't get me any closer to an understanding of the veil and the traveler. Like
I mean, if I guess if we take it at face value and we say the traveler is the gardener,
sure.
from unveiling,
Sure.
and the veil is the winnower from the unveiling. They both are objects, and that's the thing.
They would have
These
to exist
beings,
somehow in this universe, right? So they'd
right?
have to have some sort of to be able to exist in this universe that they've created. They would have to have some properties of this universe, some physicality. But then to be created as these objects that do have consciousness, that do have a level of understanding and wishes and hopes and dreams and all that stuff, um, but to be uninterpretable, like again, not uncomprehendable. Like it's just a ball. It's just a, I don't know what the veil is, like an apple seed looking or a acorn seed looking
Yeah.
thing. Like they are just to us, they're just like they're things. Like we don't understand that there is a consciousness there, and that these are beings that are able to do things.
Well, and if you really want to like take a little trip down the rabbit hole for a second, I nothing says these entities, these what we would equate to as godly powers, need to be humanoid,
Right.
need to be in a form
That
that
we can
we would
comprehend.
recognize at
And
all.
that's something that always kind of like screwed with me with the witness. Like, why can we comprehend the witness as a humanoid figure? Albeit we never see his face or his mouth, which is weird to
Yeah,
me.
we never see all of it. But I mean, presumably the witnesses. Well, we know the witnesses' original people were humanoid. They would have modeled themselves, their like new self,
After what they
after what they
existed. Yeah,
knew.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
Uh, Now, what is interesting is like, yeah, you think of the biblically accurate angels.
Oh my god, yes. Like from
They're not
Bayonetta.
humanoid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go play Bayonetta for like
Like,
5 minutes. Like that is some freaky shit. That is some eldritch. That's some uncomprehendable shit right there.
yeah, so I
I
mean,
like it.
who's to say that, these godly powers, even though they're not gods, they can look like however they want and still have full
Yeah,
functioning and sentience beyond anything we could hope to understand. So, uh, and there is we've touched on things that I want to do a proper episode on,
dude, I don't even know where to
later
go with
on.
these. Like this is some this is like the future of Destiny. Like where is this going?
I have some ideas. I have some things that I think would be fun to talk about, but for now, this will just be the little teaser. But this is a really interesting conversation of like, yeah, Traveler was there at the start of the universe. It lost something or someone, presumably the veil. And although that thing was separated from it, this tether still
Yep.
remained. And again, light casting a shadow, shadow defining the shape of the light.
Can't have one
Uh,
without the other.
that this, in my opinion, is the advent of light and dark
Absolutely.
happening.
Absolutely.
So that takes us then to the next one, uh, which is interesting. So it's a little difficult to parse chronological order here. Just from the dialogues for these next two. Uh, but I think they go this way, but we'll see. We'll see if you think they should be flip flopped. So this one is between Micah and Mara once again. I And this one goes like this. I am afraid. Reunited with a family member? Or no, terrified. I can feel they do not want unity. They want stagnation. No, you can't do this. I won't let you. It spreads through me. Dark fingers, memories, remembrances of what is this feeling? I do not want it. I shed the infection and it drops to the world below. Storms rage in my cast off flesh, storms of recollection. I must stop this. And that's it. And then Mara chimes in. Those last few experiences, the shed infection and the storms, it reminds me of the shard of the traveler that looms over the EDZ. I thought as much myself. Perhaps this memory was of the collapse or a fusion of several similar memories. And that's the end of that dialogue.
Like my mind went to the shard first, but then I started like kind of thinking about it. I'm like, what if this is like losing of the veil, and this isn't our planet that it's that like the veil come or like the witnesses people. They're like, I'm gonna give you purpose, and it's like, nope, shed the veil, get the hell out of here.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't I don't think well, we know that the veil and the traveler were not connected when the witnesses people found the
Right.
veil because they had to
They had to
like
go
go
find it.
out,
Yep, yep, yep,
go
yep.
find it.
They had the traveler sitting
Uh
over their home city, and they were just like, "Oh, okay, this thing is neat, but it's not answering our questions. Let's go find answers." And then found the veil, and it's like,
yeah.
"Oh, neat, single consciousness, cool."
Yeah. Now, what I do think is this may be a combination of the two times, maybe three times, that the veil has come into contact with the traveler. So I think this might
You think it
be
is like a
because Micah
merging of
says,
multiple memories into one thing?
yeah, because Micah says this could be a fusion of several similar
Sure,
memories. Those similar memories may be like the dread of the
sure.
veil. The first being when the precursor race first arrived with the veil and tried to use it, at that
I
point.
try to plug it in, and they're
Uh,
like, "Well, these cables don't match up."
right. Yeah. Uh, say they attempted to make the connection and the traveler fled. I think that combining with probably memories of the first collapse where presumably, well, we know like the witness had the veil at least for a time during the collapse until Savathun whisked it away somewhere. I so that would still be I'm sure the traveler could still like feel it coming.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing too. If it's been in this not this universe, if it's been in this system this whole time, maybe there is some type of suppression effect that was happening.
That could be. That's a good point.
I mean, that's the closest it's been in eons, and now it's just been sitting there for 2,000 plus years. Like, just because
Right.
I can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And the fact that it has that tether, like maybe that's why it's just been this silent the whole time. Like it couldn't. And then like when Gaul came and it had to do something, like it finally like maybe the suppression cage around it was enough to like get it to activate enough light to push out. But then as soon as it broke the suppression cage around it, like it's to me it's like Gaul put the suppression cage around it, and so now it's like okay, fuck, I can think again. That coming from the traveler, and the traveler going, well, I don't like this cage any more than I like the previous cage. But at least the previous cage, I'm able to do stuff. So then it breaks free of
Yeah.
that one, but now it's back under suppression abilities from the veil still being in our solar system. I don't know.
Yeah, that is an interesting thought. That I hadn't really considered before. Like the veil's
It's been here
been
the whole time.
a couple planets away the whole
I mean,
time.
as far as
Uh,
like distance is concerned, yeah, it's a couple billion miles or trillion miles or however far it is between Earth and Neptune.
but for a universe hopping thing, it's like
That's like
or
the
a
space between
yeah,
my A key and my J key on my keyboard. Like that's nothing to them.
yeah. So that is an interesting idea. So I see this though as a fusion of those memories of meeting the veil or the veil being nearby
Sure.
mixed with this memory of the collapse where I presume the witness started or tried to make that
I
connection
think it did.
and then failed by nature of the traveler like literally breaking a piece of
Yep.
itself
Yep.
off.
And that
Now,
part being the shard that is sitting in the EDZ. Like if you go to, can you still
yeah.
go to the farm? I don't know if you can go to the farm directly, but there is a one of the active strikes now. that starts you off in the farm is from the first season, the season of Defiance stuff, where like you're trying to like rescue prisoners and stuff, and Mar like sends you through the ascended plane. When you start that strike off, you can see it off in the distance still, and then there's
Mhm.
storms and stuff above it, and that's again that piece of myself with storms, that those two things combined make me think of the Shard of the Traveler.
Yeah, and now this is interesting. If it was shed because of an infection, if it
Oh
was beginning
shit!
to be infected by dark and it shed that piece of itself off,
Yeah,
I wonder if this is a reason why. Well, no. I was going to say, I wonder if this is a reason why our Guardian was able to use light and dark because we
maybe we
literally
absorb part of it
reestablished our connection through that
through that
shard.
shard at the end or at the beginning of the D2 vanilla campaign. And that could be it too,
Right.
because like maybe there was just a hint of darkness in there, and by reestablishing ourselves there, now we do truly have the ability to wield darkness.
Maybe so. Though I will point out that after the cage on Gaul's after the cage on the traveler is broken, like all the guardians get their light back again. And I mean, I guess canonically we're the only one that actually went to the shard, I think.
Oh, like
Uh
we VIP 2014.
right, yeah. So all the other guardians that are still using stasis and strand and whatnot presumably did not have the shard as part of that equation.
I see what you're saying. Like there's kind of like two stories that exist in Destiny. Like there's VIP 2014, us individually working with the Vanguard and stuff, and then there's like the overarching like Guardians, and it's like all the
Right.
Guardians that exist in all of existence. So like when you're in a fire team, like you as the fire team leader, like you're the only Guardian that actually exists in that narrative. And then the guy next to you is just like another dude. But in their
Right.
on their end, they're the narrative and you're just another dude. Yeah, it's a weird storytelling that's happening there
It
anyway.
is.
But no, I could see that a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe.
The other thing that I want to hone in on with this particular telling, though, is actually these words that are, again, Micah's doing an interpretation, but the fact that Micah interpreted these words exactly makes me think that they are hold some meaning. That is where she says, dark fingers, memories, remembrances of what is this feeling? I do not want it. And the reason why those words stick out to me is because we have seen the exact sentence repeated in two other places.
Oh shit.
And those places being the Hive Sisters. Uh, so if you look at the Hawkmoon lore card, this lore card's talking about um kind of from Savathun's point of view in the body of Osiris, watching Crow and the Guardian like begin to get along and establish a friendship, and they're like drinking around the campfire and that kind of stuff. Uh and in that, Savathun says they're celebrating their victory over the Taken. The crow is making a gun shape with his hand, swinging the nearly empty bottle of wine around in the other like a sword. The guardian looks pensive, sitting on a rock by the fire, contemplating the secret they are keeping. The crow notices but tries not to show it. He wants the guardian's spirits to be lifted. He wants to be supportive so that they may share in their triumphs together as equals. I am reminded of my home. I am reminded of the warmth of the sun and the embrace of my family. I am reminded of my father's face. I am reminded of everyone I betrayed. All the blood spilled in the name of immortality. The warmth of the sun burns me with its memory. What is this feeling? I do not want it. And it continues on a little bit after that.
What the fuck does that mean?
So that's Savathun.
Saying she doesn't want
I
the warmth
she
of the
I think
traveler?
it's the memories. She doesn't want.
Oh,
So I'm reminded of home.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
reminded of
yeah.
the warmth of the sun, the embrace of family. I'm reminded of everyone I've
Oh,
betrayed, all
so
the
if we
blood
equate that
spilled.
to the traveler doesn't want those memories back of all the people
Right.
that have died in its path to like escape the witness. Oh man, I never thought of it from that point of view.
So
The
I
traveler has
think
left a bloody path
it
of
has.
galaxies of
It's abandoned a lot of
oh
people.
my god, and to have to remember all that.
Yeah, I think maybe by now being close to the
It's like
veil, either
forcing that memory back
recently
into it or
or
something. Maybe that's part of
right.
that suppression thing that we're talking about.
Yeah, like it again, darkness holds memory. Like if it is combining, if it is be transforming into a being of light and dark in harmony, I assume that means all of its memories, good and bad, are going to be coming to the surface now.
That can't be good.
I mean, I don't know if it means anything for us, but at the very least, it's probably going to make the traveler feel pretty shit
I mean,
if
it's
it
gonna
doesn't
feel something.
already.
I regret. I think what I'm shit is probably yeah. It's probably past regret. It's probably the shit now. I mean, that's whole gal. I mean, the ecumene, the harmony. I mean, whole galaxy,
Elixni.
elixni,
Yeah.
the hell, freaking fundament. Like
Yeah.
some other races that we're gonna learn about in some of our next episodes. Like,
So just to round out the point, the second time we see this exact phrasing comes to us from Zivu Arath. Uh, in the lore collectibles from Ghost of the Deep. In the very last collectible, Zivu says this: I come to you now to say goodbye, brother. This will be my last visitation, a final knee at your grave. I am left to wonder if there is anything of you still in there. I am left to wonder, what is this feeling? The sky is mortally wounded, bleeding out, yet a part of me longs for the comfort of the gardens, of your stories, of sisters. I long for our journey together, but know they have come to an end. We will be proven right. You will be proven right, brother. If you have taught me anything, it was to never deny a truth, even when it grieves us. What is this feeling? I do not want it. And then that's the last dialogue of that lore collectible.
Jesus shit, man, I forgot about that one.
So I think maybe the feeling is either regret or like a longing for times
Yeah,
past.
yeah. Why don't they want it though? Like we always, again, thinking of it as in terms of, or at least what I would think of, like the good old days, right? Like you always long for the good old days. Like you don't know that they're there until they're already gone, and then you're like, man, I miss that time. But like the times these entities, like some of like what the travelers was describing, like this path of destruction, of death, of everything. I could see not wanting that. That's I mean, as an army dude, I get it. Uh, but from like Zivo Wrath, where it's like a time of like I like longing, like I wish we were back in the gardens. I wish we were back in at home. But then to say I do not want that, I don't know. That's an odd one to me.
Well, I could see that being two part for her. I could see it being a painful memory to compare those times to where she
Current
is
state of
now.
affairs. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it could also be a in her eyes because Shivu is so zealously dedicated to the sword logic. It could be a heretical thing. It
Oh,
could be her
sure.
being like, I'm not allowed to think that way.
Sure,
What,
sure, sure.
stop.
Yeah. Like I
Stop
have
this.
to stop this. I am not physically allowed to think this way. Yeah. I don't know.
So
I don't know,
just
man.
a really interesting correlation that we see that same exact phrasing between both surviving Hive sisters and the Traveler, all around memory, all around remembering
I mean,
previous
if we
times.
and this is just maybe a poke in the dark or something. I don't know. Like I really don't know. I mean, if we look at the ideology of the light, that everyone talks about, well, the light makes you forget, and therefore you can be a new person, like you can live a new life. And memory makes you hold on to those past regrets or those past times to where, oh, now in any given situation, you're going to have some type of thing to think on and be like, oh, well, maybe I should have done it this way so that way I could have a better life or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and this it brings about an interesting idea of like Ikora has put forward the idea that the Traveler removes Guardian's memories to allow them to be a clean slate,
Yeah,
to not have any prejudices coming into the world, and give them the opportunity for grace that would not exist, perhaps, if they had all that the previous
sure.
baggage. On the other hand, and I think Crow struggled and is still struggling with this, it also feels like the removal of memory could be described as running away from responsibility.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
could see that.
the the
Absolutely.
idea of like I don't remember that, so I don't
Yeah,
have
I
to
don't have to
deal
care
with the
about it. It's not
repercussions.
not my
Yeah,
problem. Like that wasn't me, so I don't care. But to everyone on the outside, like, no, that was you. You did this. Like this
right.
is why I collapsed one of your lungs and ripped your spleen out.
Poor Crow.
Poor Crow. Dude, Crow early days,
Early Crow had
early
had it
Crow
rough.
got
Yeah.
shit on. Every guardian that saw him was like, "You piece of shit," and just went after him. And he had no idea. No clue why any of this was happening.
So it does make me wonder if perhaps these memories coming back to the Traveler, regret at the civilizations left in its wake, um, you know, probably pain around that as well. But part of me also looks at this and if that is what's happening, there's a piece of me that thinks like maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe now that the Traveler understands everything it did, it can start taking responsibility for some of those
That's
things.
true. I guess that's the one thing that is in common with all of these is that regret. Like whether it be regret for where you are now, where it be regrets of past things you've done, that is the common thing in this I do not want it, and that's that level of regret.
So just an interesting one to mull on. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but
That's a hard one.
uh yeah, just another one of those ones to think on. But that brings us to the seventh vision. This one between Micah, Zavala, and Crow. And this one kind of goes along a little bit with their with our discussion about like the Traveler is not a god, it doesn't understand worship, all of that. Uh, and so Micah starts this by saying, confusion, frustration, pain. Many needing voices cry out for answers, but there are none to give. They project their own aspirations onto the traveler, but it is not what they think it is. It does not have the answers they seek. It does not remember. Memory is heavy now. It feels like dense metal, a weight around one's neck. Nothing but dread and poisonous doubt remains. It fears the act of thought. I can't make out anymore. Zavala chimes in. Not a god, not even silent, just a being desperate for help. I once thought the Traveler was a foundational cornerstone of the universe, but now it feels as though it's just as afraid and uncertain as we are. And Crow finishes it out by saying, just because someone doesn't have all the answers doesn't make them any less important. Micah's vision may seem to say the Traveler didn't have answers, but that doesn't mean it sees the universe in the same way we do. Perhaps it just has a hard time explaining what it sees to us. There's many ways to interpret that vision. And that's the end of that one.
I think Zavala and Crow hit it head on. Like it 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 is just a being. It I mean that I we're going to state that tons of times from now to the end of eternity. It is a conscious being. It doesn't truly know how to communicate with us. I mean, that's the whole reason why it uses dreams and people who are truly like attuned, and I put that in quotation marks, to the light. And like what Crow said, just because it can't interact with us, it can't talk to us, doesn't mean that it doesn't have some type of importance to the universe as a whole. Like, I
Right.
mean, the fact that we're able to use light, and I mean, again, like we use light as a weapon right now, and there's a few there's a few. I'm trying to think where it comes from. I think it's one of the stitching
Yeah, the
uh,
chests.
chest, and there's one
Yep.
that Keitel talks about, where Keitel says, the light, the traveler uses light, or the light can be used to form anything, literally anything. Light is consciousness formed into matter, like into a physical space. But the traveler, every time it's gone somewhere, it chooses birds and insects and plants and life. And I think it's Micah that Keitel's talking to, and Keitel says it's curious, and Micah kind of chimes back in with like, well, maybe it's thinking of a time where guns aren't needed, and then of course Keitel chimes back with, well, that time is not now.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I think that's true here. Like maybe the trap, like we could wield the light any way we wanted, but we choose to wield it as a weapon because that's what we've been that's what guardians have been res to do, is be a weapon, be an army, a force. But I don't know, like the light can be used in all sorts of different ways. I mean, we saw the way Osiris used it. He wasn't really weaponizing it by splitting himself into multiple people. Granted, there were times where he did that and he was attacking with it, but he used it as an exploration tool to explore different corridors of time. Like,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, it's yeah, the light is an interesting tool.
Now, I find this bit interesting of this reading in particular. So, going back to Zavala and Crow for a moment, Zavala says, I believed the Traveler was a foundational cornerstone of the universe. I don't think that's incorrect. I think it still is, or I guess I should preface, I think it was. I think it was the catalyst for our universe, or part of the catalyst for our
Sure,
universe.
sure.
And it clearly is still important and powerful enough to affect the entire universe. That's what the whole
Uh,
Witness's plan
I
was.
mean, literally everything it's come across has chased it down.
Right. But like Crow says, uh, we we can't, like, it is important, but we don't necessarily know what it wants. Like
Sure,
it is
sure.
not a god. It is still important. It still has the power to affect the universe, the thing is we can't communicate with it yet.
Yeah.
And the other bit that I really think is interesting, especially with our discussions on like the veil's effect on the traveler, uh, they project their own aspirations onto the traveler, but it is not what they think it is. It's not a god. This bit though, it does not have the answers they seek. It does not remember. Memory is heavy now. It feels like dense metal, a weight around one's neck. Nothing but dread and poisonous doubt remains. It fears the act of thought. The traveler, post post collapse, may have been silent. I mean, it didn't talk to anyone outside of the speakers, but it talked to the speakers more easily than it in the golden age than it does now.
Sure.
At least that's how it seemed in the
In
Constellations
the
book to me.
constellation books. Yeah, yeah, yep.
They seem to be implying here that the traveler does like is does not have memories, does not
Yeah.
have information to draw on to know how to answer some of these questions, where previously in one of these other readings the traveler literally described itself as the blueprint on which the universe is written.
Right. God,
So
this
somewhere
is
somewhere between there and here, something happened that made it lose its memories, which has caused it to just doubt itself to the point where it to the point of inaction.
but only down itself by coming back in contact with those memories.
Well,
Or
I don't
doubt itself when it came back in contact with those memories, right? Is
I,
that
I don't think so. I think this is implying this is a vision that Micah has gotten when it did not have those memories back yet,
okay?
is how I'm interpreting this. And it's like it's Zavala, it's the various people that have cried out to it in prayer as a god,
Sure.
and it no longer has the like at previously it was like I'm not a god, I don't understand what you're doing, like I don't understand worship. And here it's not saying like I don't understand what you're doing, it's saying I don't remember enough info to even know if I can answer your questions.
Dude, that's heavy.
So if we take this back to that separation like of the veil and the traveler, of light from dark, perhaps post separation the traveler has slowly been
Losing
losing
its
its
mind.
capacity
And
for
and
that mental
and okay,
energy.
so let's take the veil at face value and say it is just pure consciousness. And without that level of consciousness being harmonized with the light, the being that is, well, I guess not, sorry, not the light, without that pure consciousness being able to, it's like a split of a soul.
Yeah.
And it's like as it moves on and as the traveler moves on and moves on, it doesn't know how to interpret what it's even doing. Like it knows it's supposed to terraform, but it doesn't remember why it's supposed to terraform.
And maybe that's why it has not been able to inform us of its motives, because
Sure.
the memory of what those motives were isn't there anymore
I mean, the
and
only way
is
we're gonna
maybe
know is
coming
to like,
back.
well, oh shit,
I mean, it has dark now. It is
right,
transforming, and by what we were seeing before, uh it is starting to it is starting to remember things.
yeah,
I mean, that's what these visions are
yeah, yeah, yeah,
memories.
yeah, yeah. Holy shit. I was about to say like the only way we're gonna know is if like somebody goes over to the veil, goes over to Neo Moon and is like, "Hey, can we borrow this for 5 minutes?" and just like unplugs the cloud arc from it and then like brings the veil over and goes, "Okay, click," and plugs it in and sees what the hell happens. Like,
Well, I think that's
but
already
I
happened.
think you're right. I think that is by the witness doing what it did. It connected it. It plugged it in via that tether, and now it's just bleeding. Like the Crow describes it at the end, where the aura that's just bleeding out of the traveler. Light and dark is just everywhere. Like
Yep.
it doesn't even know how to contain this stuff anymore. And that's, I guess that's an important thing too. Like after we were done with the witness and we left the, left the Pale Heart, that should have been the end of it. Like the portal should have closed, and that's it. Neat, we did it. We beat the witness, but the portal is still open, and we're
Because
still able to like
the
traverse it.
traveler is transforming. Like the
Yeah,
traveler is becoming something
something
different.
different. Yeah, and it's happening from the outside in, or from the inside out rather. It's working its way from the inside and slowly transforming the whole thing. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Holy shit! Broke my brain
So
on that one, Myth.
what this, the spin foil theory here is that we have only ever interacted with a this is a very inelegant way of putting it, but a traveler with like Alzheimer's.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it can't remember things, or it remembers fragments of things, and it doubts its own memories, and it doesn't want to do anything because it doesn't know if what it's doing is just going to lead to more bad things, because it doesn't have the context information to understand like the entirety of what's going on around it.
yeah.
And we are hopefully in the future going to move to a traveler that is complete and knows all of its memories, and will now know its entirety, for like it will know its own motivation. It will be able to act with purpose once more. And
I'd love if it could communicate
I
in
don't know
something
what
other
that's going
than
to look
dreams.
like.
Yeah, yeah, no, like nobody knows what that's going to look like. Like I'd love if we could just be able to communicate with it.
Yes, just open line of communication.
Yeah.
Just sit down for like a couple hours and be like, all right, what the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like,
What is your deal?
what
I
is
just
your
I want it
deal?
I want it to have like just like a little smiley face on it. Like it's still just a giant ball, but now it's a ball with like a smiley face and two little eyes, like a little like Walmart smiley face, and it's just
There you
like,
go.
"Hey, buddy." But it's like this giant thing, so it's like, "Hey, buddy." There's this big old booming voice that like shakes planets and shit. Yeah. That's
We're
what
gonna
I
have a
want.
strike where the sole objective is to stick giant googly eyes on this traveler.
God damn
Uh,
it. I wasn't ready for that. I want I want I want that now. I want the traveler with giant googly eyes, and that little portal is just its mouth, just like, oh, open up. Like that's what I want now. I didn't know I
uh,
wanted that, but that's exactly what I want.
there you go.
Great googly eyed traveler.
All right. Well, we have one last vision to go over here. And this one is between Micah and Crow. I and it is about Micah and Crow. So this one goes like this. There's a person, no, people, those born in harmony and attunement with the light, a few grains of sand in a desert of time. They feel, experience things different than others, see things, visions, dreams, images, a non-linear perspective. I see the speaker, Crow, me, a wave spanning time and space upon which we stand, a wave crashing on distant shores of distant gardens. I can't make any sense of the rest. And Crow chimes in. Waves crashing on distant shores. Feels like there's more. Something about ourselves we don't understand yet. Being a guardian is being a part of something greater, but this, Perhaps it's another mystery, a larger tapestry, one we are only just becoming aware of. And that's the end of that dialogue.
I mean, the distant shores, like that's got to be like other universes, right? Like other
Yeah,
planes of existence, other.
distant shores of distant gardens.
Yeah,
And remember that is the same line Luzaku said.
yeah.
I when she described Micah saying um, that the Micah's aura reverberates like waves of a lapping ocean, brushing onto shores
So I'm
of a distant garden.
I'm curious if like the speakers, and especially ones like Micah, who are incredibly attuned, and I think that's what it is. I think there's a level of attunement here. Like
Yes,
we
I
knew
think so.
Micah has been attuned to the travelers since little kid Micah. Because little kid Micah got visions of the traveler and wrote letters to him,
Yep.
or them, it, giant ball with googly eyes. Um, I want that now. I want that so bad. You have no idea, Myth. I want googly eyed travelers so bad now. I didn't know I wanted it until just now, but I do want that. Um, yeah, no, but I think it is like it's a level of attunement there, and I think Micah is just insanely attuned to it. I mean, that's why ghosts flock to her, and that's why she is able to. Now, again, Micah is another unique guardian, in the fact that I think she and Crow might be the only two that actually have their full memories of
Yes,
everything from
I think so.
pre-Guardian. Like Anna is close, but I don't think Anna has everything. Like I think Anna's pieced together what she could piece together, but I don't think she has her full memory.
And the big difference I think with Anna is that she has her memories from a very different perspective. She has her
Right.
memories as someone reading the
A
diary
book.
of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
someone else.
Yep. Whereas like Crow and Micah both have the full everything.
Right.
It's like they have lived those lives. And again that's just a super unique perspective from the two of them.
Mhm. Yeah, whereas Anna it's like it's it's more personal than that, but it's almost like reading a book about a character with your name that went off and did XYZ thing. I versus like living it, having the being able to close your eyes and have the memory of being there doing that thing.
I forgot there's a third one.
Savathun.
Sava fucking Thune.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
We don't know that she has a connection in the same way that Crow and Micah do, though.
That's true. That is
Like
true.
she,
Like
not that she would tell us, but
right. Like who the fuck knows? But that's a key thing between the three of them. That the one thread that's in common is the memory. They have their memories back, whereas like the traveler fears something of that, and
right.
the three of them have it, and they've accepted it almost. Like I think Crow still kind of has some little thing of something, but Savathun wanted it.
Yeah.
I think Micah was pulled to it.
Yeah. But Micah didn't fear it. Micah
Right.
actively sought it.
Sought it out. Exactly. Yep.
Now, I will say that that doesn't have anything in common with the previous speakers
True.
because the previous speakers weren't even guardians.
Nope. They were just dudes.
But it is an interesting through line between those three.
I don't know.
That
I don't know
I
what
don't
it
know.
means though. I don't know.
I
It
don't
means
know.
something. I just don't like. Again, I have 1,000 pieces to a thousand different 1,000 piece puzzles, and I don't know what to do with any of them. But if I smash them together enough, they fit.
Yeah. So we're going to end this episode with one last little dialogue between Micah 10 and Mara, which is one of the dialogues you can get when you complete the overthrow activity in any of the areas. There's a couple different dialogues that pop up. Um,
Another
but the one
great
between,
source of dialogues.
yeah, yeah. But the one between Micah and Mara, A is just a good little capstone for our episode, but B kind of opens that door that we were talking about for like what are they going to do with this a couple years down the road? So that little dialogue starts with Micah saying, "The traveler is healing, but it will be many years yet before it recovers from this calamity." And Mara chimes in, "I look forward to the day when we look on the traveler anew and perhaps learn more about its purpose." And that's the end of that little snippet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Purpose.
they're
I
setting it
shall
up.
give the universe purpose.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't need to go through that again.
Awkward.
Uh,
Yeah,
but they're setting it up for like eventually Traveler's gonna be healed, and
yeah.
then it's gonna be something new with perhaps new goals, and we'll see where that takes us.
I like it. There are really so many like dialogues and stuff, and we're gonna dive into a bunch of them too. Like, we found today the collectibles in the Sis that everyone was like, oh, these feathers don't do anything. Yeah, there's something there. Um, the Lazaku stuff. I mean, all the little stitching events, all the overthrow, the end of the overthrows, the little dialogues there. I mean, there's so much going on right now. Again, I we're what, week 4 now, week 5. I don't know what week we're in,
Something like that, yeah.
but I cannot stop playing this game. I think I've got 400 hours in since Final Shape launched, at least.
Yeah,
I love it. Feels good. Love it.
absolutely. It has
Okay.
been wonderful.
Well,
Uh,
let's do some shout outs then.
yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple of shout outs. We're still working through our list here. Um, say the first one comes to us from an email message that was sent in. This one being from a Tyler. They say, "Hey guys, just wanted to reach out and say thank you. Ever since I found your series, I've completely fallen back into a game that I really never left, but felt like I needed a fresh perspective on. You guys have recommended so many good stories, and I've been binging everything up to the final shape. So, again, thank you so much for what you guys do, and I'm glad you took some time for yourselves before the launch. Happy launch day to you both, and I will see you Starside."
I love
So,
it. I love it.
yeah, clearly during our break prior to the expansion coming out,
We
but
had
yeah,
to.
like
I don't know.
we were gonna be burnt
Yeah.
out if we
Yeah.
didn't. But but no, I appreciate your and everyone else's understanding in us doing that. It really is a big part of the reason why we're able to come back and be as excited as we are
Yeah.
about all of this.
Every third, like, it's funny, the day that we record on, there's been a few days where we've been like, let's go raid, let's go do this instead, and then like we push it off a bit and we're like, fuck, we gotta record this, get it out, like. So yeah, it's I can't stop playing this game right now. It is literally like, on days where it's like, oh, maintenance, I'm like, I don't know what to do, so I will literally just watch TikTok for like 8 or 9 hours and like, okay, back into Destiny. It's bad. It's bad.
Oh, but no, it's good to hear that. I like the way that they put it here. Yeah, I have fallen back into a game that I never really left, but I needed a fresh perspective on, because
Yeah.
it is amazing how changing the way you think about the activity you're doing, even if it's an activity you've done a bunch of times before, can really like revitalize your motivation for it. So I'm glad we were able to do that for you.
Absolutely.
Our next one comes to us from our Twitter. This one is from uh, Nation for Apollo, who says, "So happy and excited you guys are back and covering Final Shape content. Do you think you will cover the Ergo Sum sword and how it was seen in the corridors of time on our grave? Looking forward and loving it all. Keep it up."
Myth had to point that out to me, and then we went and looked again. It's also the sword you used to destroy the witness. If
Yeah,
you look at
that
the hilt of it, it's got the same pommel and hilt to it. Like there's something there. I don't know that we have the full story yet, but there is definitely something there.
yeah, and as Apollo here pointed out, yeah, Ergo Sum is 110% the sword that is on the Guardian grave during Season of the Dawn in the Corridors of Time.
Is that why we have Breachlight back? Because we're making time jumps now.
I mean, I'm
Is
not
that
complaining.
that's what I'm
If
getting at?
if that's what it took, like sure. Uh
That's what I'm getting at.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the Ergo Sum sword, if you look at it, like you're saying, the ghost pommel is the same as the sword that you fight the witness with. It almost looks like Ergo Sum is like a slightly shattered or
Yep.
bent up version of that.
Yep.
Uh, so kind of a cool little Easter egg there too.
I love it.
Um, but yeah, don't know a ton about it or how it ends up on our grave, presumably.
Right.
Or with the way time works, if the events of that death have already been circumvented somehow. Um,
Could be.
Hard to say. But yeah,
Will
it
say I
is
am loving Ergo Sum. Like the
very
different
fun to
roles
use.
on it are crazy. I've got the what I think Myth has described as like the god roll for DPS, and that's the caster frame Polaris, perfect fifth, and can confirm it chews through bosses, especially if you've got another guardian using Galar Sum, is I think what we've dubbed it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's nasty. It does some damage. I've personally taken to the Telesto version. I've got an aggressive frame one. I need to hunt down a vortex frame, but the aggressive frame one, especially in Transcendence, that will eat through some yellow bars like it's nothing. Very very fun sword, but yeah, not again, not fully sure of where like the obvious connection is it's there. It's the same sword. Same thing with inside the witness's brain. Like it's the same sword. Don't know fully what the connection is yet, though.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're keeping an eye out for more little hints because it's very interesting. But all right, we'll do one more say for this episode. So our last shout out here is actually coming to us from YouTube. This was a comment that somebody left on one of our videos there. This is a Jeremy who says, "Glad you guys are back. That was a boring week or so, like 3 weeks, but
A little bit.
uh, says I'm a beta D1 player and found you guys about a year and a half ago. I listen to you every week, and I often replay old episodes in between the new ones. The way you guys lay out the Destiny lore together is amazing. My favorite episodes are The Awoken and Books of Sorrow. I'm listening to the Awoken stories for the third time, and I'm glad to hear Destiny has some kind of future, not only for the gameplay, but because it also means you guys will keep continuing this. I also wanted to add that learning the lore that you present makes the game so much more enjoyable, and I love annoying my friends and clanmates with fun facts as we do the raids. Also, Zora, I love your Stargate references.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Stargate as well.
Yeah.
Keep doing you.
Yay. Pretty sure we've all like if you're into any type of sci-fi anything, like if you didn't watch like Stargate or Star Trek or Star Wars, any of the Star anything, like no, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
If you like those, you are playing Destiny, and if you are playing Destiny, you have watched one of those three. I'm just saying that I'm stating that as a fact now.
Well, it's true for the group we play with at the very least.
Very true.
Uh,
I do love that this person likes the Awoken, because I know that's your favorite. That's
yeah.
like your baby. Space
Yeah.
opera.
It's one of those ones where like if Destiny ever gets a TV show,
One whole series is just
just
tributary.
give me like, and I guess maybe that's not fair because that is the Marasena and the story of the Awoken is so wonderfully self-contained
Yeah.
that you wouldn't even know it's a Destiny show
Nope. Nope.
if you stuck with that.
You could have a whole season. You could have 13-part season with that, and then yeah,
Yeah,
and then you'd be like, oh, now we're going back to the universe, and you're like, weren't we? What?
yeah. Like I don't know. I really hope we get more content in this world, just
I
because
think we will.
there's so much there,
I
so
think
much
we
there.
will.
But going back to Jeremy's comment here, yeah, thank you so much. It's good to hear that you enjoy our stuff enough to listen to it multiple times. Uh, so that's always really cool, and yeah, Awoken, all of our histories, I feel super proud about, just because like there was a lot of time and effort, and like it felt
Piecing
so
everything together.
satisfying to,
Yeah.
yeah, get everything pieced together in as close as we could to chronological order, and just being like, here's the story of X
X.
from
Yeah.
beginning
Yep.
to end at that time. uh so yeah, so thank you. But, so that is where we're going to call it for the shout outs for this episode. We still have more, and we always love seeing those. So if you like what you heard and you want to support us in some way, leave a review on your platform of choice. That helps us out. If you felt strongly enough to leave a text review, go ahead and leave those. We love reading those. Or you can reach out at Missing Stories on Twitter, missingstories at gmail.com for email, or youtube.com/ at myths and stories, and you may see yourself as a future shout out.
Yeah. Um. You know what? I'm gonna thank Googly Eyed Traveler tonight, because that is just, I need that. I might just go like find some spherical object in my house and just put giant googly eyes on it and draw a little triangle mouthpiece on it and be like, this is my traveler. Can you get a
uh,
traveler from Bungie?
I don't think they've made a traveler statue now
Isn't
that you
that
say
weird?
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that
the
is
simplest
interesting.
travel, like it's the simplest object. Well, okay, sorry, it is the most complex 3D object you could make. But in terms of like an object to make, like I feel like
Yeah,
it's
just go scuff up a baseball.
that's what
Call
I'm
it
getting
good.
at. Like, yeah, all right. Well, now I know what my next project is, and that's Googly Eye Traveler, because I
There
need
you
it.
go.
I didn't know I needed it till now. All right. Anything else, Smith?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, then, from all of us lore daddies to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next time.
You found your people. Guardians do love their myths and stories.